Chapter 15. What would Calvin do? Annabelle sprang like a rabbit from a snare. I may be bait, she shrieked, but I'm still Annabelle Ho, and I'm not sitting bait. I'm fighting bait. Come on, Alvin, we gotta move fast. Annabelle ran toward the car, and I ran after her. Hurry, Alvin, said Annabelle, crawling into the back of Louise. We gotta get our stuff and use it to protect ourselves. In the back, underneath an old blanket, was the portable diesel generator, the Monster Eye flashlight, mosquito netting, and the rest of the stuff that Calvin had ordered. Calvin helped me hide this stuff in here last night, said Annabelle, just in case. If there was anything good about having Annabelle along, it was this. She's a fantastic packer-upper. Aren't you glad I came? Asked Annabelle. I nodded. You're very useful, Annabelle, I said. It sounded like something Calvin would say to her. He always has a good word for Annabelle, but I hardly ever do on account of it's hard to be nice to a girl. Then Annabelle stopped. Now what? She asked. She looked at the equipment, and then she looked at me. Now I scratched my head. I didn't know what we were going to do. Calvin had ordered everything without explaining anything. What would Calvin do? Asked Annabelle. He would test all the equipment to make sure everything works, I said. That's what Calvin would do. Okay, said Annabelle. She was a regular professional tester. Often, Calvin and I would ask her to be the first to try something to see if it was dangerous or poisonous or something, and she would do it and report the facts exactly as they were. So we climbed out of the car and dumped everything out of its box and gave it all a trial run. Everything was okay except for the generator, which wouldn't start, and the mosquito netting, which was so tangled and heavy that you could hardly see or breathe through it. We needed scissors, but Calvin didn't order scissors, so we tried bushwhacking our way out the Monster Eye flashlight, but it was not a good machete at all. So then I asked, what would Houdini do? Squirm, cried Annabelle. So we squirmed like crazy. It was great, but we were even more tangled than before. Finally, Annabelle unzipped the mosquito netting and slipped out, just like that. Mosquito netting sure works up an appetite, so we tore into the energy bars, which was a wonderful idea, except that they were kind of gooey, and they got stuck in our throats. So then we purified a puddle right there in the parking lot on account of we needed to wash down the sticky morsels quickly before we choked to death. The water purification tablets worked great, but we still couldn't figure out how to get the generator going so we could protect ourselves by running the portable TV, which Calvin had also packed. As everyone knows, having the TV on can keep coyotes away. I know what Calvin would do, said Annabelle. Take it apart. My brother Calvin can figure out anything just by taking it apart and putting it back together. It's the first thing he does with a new toy, and it always teaches him a thing or two about how things work. So Annabelle and I took the generator apart, then we put it back together. When we were done, there were only a handful of tiny thingies that didn't belong anywhere. The portable diesel generator looked almost exactly the same as when it came out of the box, but it still didn't work, so there was only one thing left to do. Let's take the Monster Eye apart to see what makes it so bright, I said. Okay, said Annabelle. So then we took apart our flashlight and we put it back together. After that, our very fantastic Monster Eye wide beam wasn't so bright anymore. In fact, you could say it was rather dark. That's a ripoff, I said. Calvin said that for $400 it would shine forever. I was really disappointed and scared. We had nothing to protect ourselves. But Annabelle didn't notice. Camping is really fun, isn't it, Alvin? She asked. I stopped. I looked at Annabelle. Annabelle was looking at me and smiling like the crinkly top of one of my mom's apple pies. She was so happy she couldn't sing. She couldn't even be chatty. She was just kind of there, floating above the colorful autumn leaves and the golden afternoon light. You might even say that she was glowing. I wish that we could stay here and camp forever, said Annabelle, hugging herself. Then Annabelle wrapped her noodle arms around me. She breathed softly, her eyes closed. So I closed my eyes. I sighed. Maybe I was enjoying camping a little too. And just as I was about to tell her that, a loud whoosh went over the tops of the trees. Then a belly button piercing scream shook the entire forest.